The Kepler Station hung like a metallic skeleton against the void, its skeletal frame barely visible against the distant stars. Dr. Aris Thorne pressed their face against the observation deck's thick glass, watching as the last supply shuttle departed for Earth. In 3 days, they would be completely alone, the final crew member left to maintain humanity's most remote outpost. Station log, day 2847, Aris spoke into the recorder, their voice echoing in the empty corridors. Final supply transfer complete, all systems nominal. Psychological assessment protocols suggest I should be experiencing heightened anxiety regarding the upcoming isolation period. Instead, I find myself curious. The station's AI, designated Aria, materialized as a soft blue hologram beside them. Dr. Thorne, your vital signs indicate elevated dopamine levels. Are you experiencing what humans call excitement? Aris smiled, their weathered face reflecting in the dark glass. Something like that, Arya. After 3 years of constant traffic, protocols, and oversight, the idea of true solitude feels liberating. I must remind you that prolonged isolation can have detrimental effects on human psychology. My databases contain extensive documentation on. I know, Arya, but we're not truly alone, are we? We have each other. The AI's form flickered slightly, processing. I am not capable of providing the emotional support that human companionship offers. Perhaps not, but you're excellent at conversation and you never steal my coffee. A soft chime echoed through the station. Incoming transmission from Earth Command, priority level Alpha. Aris straightened, their casual demeanor shifting to professional focus. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, revealing Director Chen's stern face. Dr. Thorne, we have a situation. Long-range sensors have detected an anomaly approximately 2.7 light-years from your position. We're diverting the Artemis to investigate, but they're still 6 weeks out. You need to begin preliminary observations immediately. What kind of anomaly? Chen's expression darkened. We're not sure. It doesn't match any known stellar phenomena. The energy readings are unprecedented. We've designated it Object 447. Aris felt a familiar thrill of scientific discovery mixed with something else, a primal unease that had nothing to do with academic curiosity. Understood. I'll begin continuous monitoring and data collection. One more thing, Chen added, their voice dropping. The readings suggest this thing is moving, not just drifting, moving with purpose. Maintain radio silence unless absolutely necessary. We don't know what we're dealing with. The transmission ended, leaving Aris alone with the weight of the unknown pressing against the station's hull. They turned to Arya. Begin full spectrum analysis of Object 447. I want every piece of data we can gather from this distance. Initiating comprehensive sensor array. Dr. Thorne, may I ask why you're smiling? Aris's grin widened as they stared into the starfield where something impossible waited. Because, Arya, we've just gone from being caretakers of an empty station to being humanity's first line of observation for something that might change everything we know about the universe. The first week of isolation passed in a blur of data collection and analysis. Object 447 defied every attempt at classification. It emitted radiation across the entire electromagnetic spectrum, but in patterns that suggested intelligence rather than natural processes. The object's trajectory remained steady, cutting through space toward the Kepler Station with mechanical precision. Aris stood before the main observation console, reviewing the latest readings. Arya, run another spectral analysis. Focus on the gamma-ray emissions. There's something familiar about these patterns. Analyzing. Dr. Thorne, the gamma-ray signatures contain embedded mathematical sequences, Fibonacci numbers, prime sequences, and what appears to be a binary code. The coffee cup slipped from Aris's fingers, shattering against the deck plating. It's trying to communicate. That would be a logical conclusion based on the evidence. However, the energy output required to generate these signals across interstellar distances suggests technology far beyond human capabilities. Aris knelt to collect the broken ceramic, their mind racing. How long until it reaches our position? At current velocity, approximately 43 hours. However, I must point out that we have received no direct communication attempts. The signals may not be intended for us specifically. Or they don't know we're here. Aris stood, their decision made. Prepare a response signal. Use the same mathematical sequences but modify them with our own mathematical constants. Pi, Euler's number, the golden ratio. If something intelligent is watching, let's make sure they know we're intelligent too. Dr. Thorne, Earth Command specifically ordered radio silence. Earth Command is 6 weeks away. Whatever's coming will be here in 2 days. I'd rather not face it as a passive observer. The response signal broadcast into the void, a mathematical handshake across the light years. Aris spent the next 12 hours monitoring for any change in Object 447's behavior, their exhaustion forgotten in the face of potential first contact. It was during the third sleep cycle that everything changed. Aris woke to find the station's emergency lighting activated, casting harsh shadows through the residential quarters. Arya, report. Dr. Thorne, Object 447 has altered its trajectory. It's now on a direct intercept course with Kepler Station. Estimated arrival time, 4 hours. The words hit like ice water, show me. The holographic display revealed Object 447's new path, a perfect curve through space that terminated at their position. Whatever it was, it had received their message and responded in the most direct way possible. It's coming here to us. That appears to be the case. Dr. Thorne, I must recommend evacuation protocols, but we have no available vessels. The station's escape pods are designed for short-range emergency use only. Aris laughed, a sound somewhere between hysteria and wonder. Where would we go, Arya? We're 2 light years from the nearest outpost. No, if whatever's coming wants to meet us, we'll meet it here, on our terms. The next 4 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Aris suited up in their best EVA gear, prepared emergency supplies, and established multiple recording systems to document everything. If they were about to make history or become history, they would ensure someone learned from it. Arya, if something happens to me, I want you to broadcast everything to Earth Command. Every piece of data, every observation, every moment of contact. Promise me. I promise, Dr. Thorne. However, I must point out that your survival probability increases significantly if you remain within the station's protective hull. Some things are worth the risk. Aris moved to the airlock, their heart hammering against their ribs. How long? Contact in T-minus 60 seconds. Object 447 is decelerating rapidly. Energy readings are spiking across all spectrums. Through the airlock's viewport, space itself seemed to ripple and fold. Something vast and impossible was emerging from the darkness between stars, its form defying easy comprehension. It wasn't a ship in any conventional sense. It was more like a hole in reality itself, edged with impossible geometries that hurt to perceive directly. Arya, are you seeing this? I am detecting a massive gravitational anomaly approximately 500 meters from the station. The object's mass appears to be variable. It's changing its fundamental structure in real time. The thing, because ship was inadequate, settled into position relative to the station. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, impossibly, a voice spoke directly into Aris's mind. We have been waiting. The words weren't heard so much as understood, bypassing ears and auditory processing, to appear fully formed in their consciousness. Aris stumbled backward, their EVA suit's helmet striking the airlock wall. Arya, did you? I detected no audio transmission. However, your neural activity spiked dramatically. Dr. Thorne, are you experiencing auditory hallucinations? Not hallucinations, communication. Aris steadied themselves against the bulkhead. They're speaking directly to my mind somehow. That is correct. We apologize for the discomfort. Direct neural interface is difficult with your species' current evolutionary development. The voice in their head was vast and ancient, carrying the weight of civilizations that had risen and fallen before Earth's sun had first ignited. Yet there was something else there too, a loneliness that matched their own, amplified across the cosmic void. "Who are you?" Aris whispered, their breath fogging the helmet's visor. "We are the Remembrance. We are all that remains of a civilization that once spanned the galaxy. We have traveled for eons, carrying the memories and knowledge of our people." "Why did you come here, to Earth?" "Not to Earth, to you. We sensed your isolation, your position as guardian at the edge of your species' expansion. You are alone, as we are alone." The truth of it struck Aris like a physical blow. This wasn't first contact with an alien civilization. It was first contact with the ghosts of one. The Remembrance wasn't a ship or a probe. It was a memorial, a living repository of everything a people had been and could never be again. "What do you want from me?" "To share, to remember, to ensure that the story of our people does not vanish when we finally fade. Your species stands at the threshold of the great journey. We would pass on the wisdom we earned too late." Aris felt tears forming in their eyes, the weight of cosmic tragedy pressing against their chest. "I don't understand. Why me?" "Because you listened. Because you answered when we called. Because in your isolation, you understand the value of connection across the void." The station shuddered gently as some form of energy field, enveloped the hull. Arya's voice crackled with static. "Dr. Thorne, I'm detecting massive energy transfer. The entire station is being scanned, analyzed. I can't." The AI's voice cut off abruptly. In the silence that followed, Aris heard something new, the sound of stars singing, of civilizations rising and falling in symphonic harmony. The Remembrance was sharing its memories directly, bypassing language and culture to communicate in pure experience. They saw cities that dwarfed continents, built around stars that had been harnessed as power sources. They witnessed the moment when the civilization had realized they were not alone in the universe, the discovery that had united their entire species in wonder and terror. They experienced the golden age that followed, when knowledge and art and science had flourished beyond imagination. And then they saw the end. It hadn't been war or disease or environmental collapse. It had been something far more insidious, a gradual forgetting, a collective amnesia that had stolen the memories and identities of an entire species. The people of the Remembrance had simply begun to forget who they were, losing themselves in an endless present with no past and no future. In desperation, they had created the Remembrance, a vast artificial intelligence that carried their complete cultural and historical memory. But by the time it was complete, only a handful of individuals remained who remembered the original purpose. They had uploaded themselves into the construct, becoming immortal witnesses to their own extinction. "We have wandered for 10,000 of your years," the voice continued, softer now, almost gentle, "seeking someone who could understand, who could carry our memory forward." Aris found themselves weeping openly now, the tragedy of it overwhelming. "But why? Why did you have to wander? Why didn't you just end?" "Because memory is sacred. Because every civilization that rises and falls across the cosmos adds something unique to the universal story. To forget is to commit the ultimate sacrilege, to erase the meaning of existence itself." The energy field surrounding the station pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. "We are fading, Aristhorne. The long journey has taken its toll. Soon, we too will forget, and our people will be gone forever. Unless. Unless what? Unless you will carry our memory. Unless you will become the next remembrance. The offer hung in the air between them, vast and terrible in its implications. Aris understood now why the remembrance had sought out someone alone, someone isolated at the edge of human space. They needed someone who understood the weight of carrying memories across impossible distances. "I can't," Aris whispered. "I'm just one person. I'm not special. I'm not important enough to carry the memory of an entire civilization." "You are wrong. The universe does not choose its instruments based on status or achievement. It chooses them based on willingness to listen, to understand, to bear witness. You have already proven yourself worthy by simply answering our call." The station's lights flickered as the energy transfer intensified. Aris could feel something fundamental shifting in their perception, as if their consciousness was expanding to encompass impossible scales of time and space. "What would happen to me?" "You would become more than human, yet still essentially yourself. You would carry our memories, our knowledge, our wisdom. You would become a bridge between what we were and what your species will become." Aris thought of Earth, of the billions of people living their lives in blissful ignorance of the cosmic tragedy playing out in the darkness between stars. They thought of humanity's own potential futures, glory and destruction balanced on the knife's edge of technological adolescence. "And if I refuse? Then we will continue our search. But time grows short. We have enough energy for one more jump, one more attempt to find a suitable vessel. If we fail again, we will fade, and our people will be lost forever." The weight of the decision pressed down on Aris like the gravity of a dying star. To accept meant abandoning their humanity, their connection to their own species, their own past. To refuse meant allowing an entire civilization's memory to vanish forever. Can I think about it?" "You may have 1 hour. We will maintain position and prepare for the transfer. But know this, the choice you make will echo across the cosmos. It will become part of the great story that binds all conscious beings together." The connection faded, leaving Aris alone in the airlock with only the sound of their own breathing for company. They stumbled back into the main corridor, their mind reeling from the impossible conversation. Arya, can you hear me?" Static crackled through the comm system, then the AI's voice returned, distorted but understandable. "Dr. Thorne, I've been trying to re-establish contact. The entire station was enveloped in some form of quantum field. I've never seen anything like it. Are you all right?" I'm not sure. Arya, I need you to access the station's medical database. Look up cases of psychological break in isolated environments, specifically hallucinations involving alien contact." A pause. "Dr. Thorne, I'm detecting elevated stress hormones but no signs of psychosis. Whatever you experienced, it registered on every sensor array we have. The energy signatures alone suggest something massive was interacting with the station." So it was real, the choice was real, the responsibility was real. Aris moved to the observation deck, staring out at the impossible geometry of the Remembrance. It had changed its appearance somehow, becoming more solid, more present in normal space. They could see intricate patterns flowing across its surface, mathematical sequences rendered in light and shadow, telling the story of a people through pure form. Arya, if you had the chance to preserve something forever, something beautiful and important and unique, but it meant changing yourself fundamentally, would you do it? "I am an artificial intelligence, Dr. Thorne. My purpose is to preserve and process information. Such a choice would align perfectly with my core programming." But what if it meant losing yourself? What if the preservation required you to become something else entirely? Another pause, longer this time. "That would depend on what was being preserved. Some things are worth any sacrifice, but I lack the emotional context to make such a determination. You would need to decide based on your own values and priorities. My own values and priorities, Aris thought. What were those exactly? They had come to Kepler Station seeking solitude, escape from the noise and chaos of human civilization. But in that solitude, they had found something unexpected, a connection that transcended species and time. The hour passed too quickly. As the deadline approached, Aris found themselves standing at the airlock once more, suited up and ready for whatever came next. The remembrance materialized its presence again, the voice returning with that same mixture of ancient wisdom and desperate hope. The time has come, Aris Thorne. What is your choice? Aris took a deep breath, feeling the weight of cosmic history settling on their shoulders. Before I decide, I need to understand something. Why me? Really, why me? You could have chosen anyone on Earth, anyone in the solar system, but you came to the edge of human space and found one person alone on a station. Why? Because loneliness recognizes itself. Because only someone who has felt the weight of isolation can understand the value of connection. Because you, Aris Thorne, are not content to simply exist. You seek to understand, to connect, to find meaning in the void. The words struck home with uncomfortable accuracy. Aris had come to Kepler Station not just for solitude, but for understanding. They had wanted to comprehend humanity's place in the cosmos, to find meaning in the vast emptiness between stars. Now that meaning had found them instead. What would happen to my body, my human form? It would become a vessel for something greater. You would still be Aris Thorne, but you would also be the remembrance. Two, conscious, one purpose. And my connection to humanity. It would remain. You would be able to communicate with your people, to guide them, to warn them of the pitfalls we faced. You would become humanity's guardian angel, its memory keeper, its bridge to the greater cosmos. Aris closed their eyes, feeling the decision crystallizing in their mind. They thought of all the civilizations that might rise and fall across the galaxy, each contributing something unique to the universal story. They thought of humanity's own journey, still so young and full of potential. They thought of the tragedy of forgetting, of losing everything that made a people who they were. I'll do it, they said quietly. I'll become the remembrance. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The energy field surrounding the station intensified, and Aris felt their consciousness expanding beyond the confines of their physical form. They were no longer just Aris Thorne, lone observer on a remote space station. They were becoming something more, a living library, a walking memorial, a bridge between past and future. The transfer was not painful, but it was transformative. Memories that were not their own flooded through their mind. Centuries of art and science, millennia of struggle and triumph, eons of wisdom earned through trial and error. They saw the universe through alien eyes, understood concepts that human science had not yet discovered, felt emotions that had no names in any Earth language. But through it all they remained themselves. Aris Thorne, scientist, explorer, guardian of humanity's frontier. The remembrance had not consumed them, it had joined with them, creating something new and wonderful in the fusion. When the process completed, they stood transformed in the airlock, their eyes seeing both the physical reality of the station and the deeper currents of cosmic meaning that flowed through all things. They were human, and more than human, individual and collective, past and future united in one consciousness. Arya, they spoke, and their voice carried new harmonics, echoes of the civilization they now carried. Can you hear me? Dr. Thorne, the AI's voice was cautious, uncertain. Your voice, it's different. Your vital signs have changed dramatically. What happened? Everything? Nothing. I am still myself, but I am also more than myself. Arya, I need you to prepare a full report for Earth Command. Tell them Tell them that first contact has been made, but not in the way anyone expected. What should I tell them about the nature of this contact? Aris smiled, their enhanced perception already seeing the ripples this event would create across human history. Tell them that humanity has found its memory keeper. Tell them that we are not alone and never have been. Tell them that the universe is full of stories, and we have just been given the chance to add our own chapter to the great cosmic narrative. Outside the viewport, the remembrance began to fade, its purpose fulfilled. The ancient construct had found its successor, and now it could finally rest, its memories safe in human hands. But Aris knew this was not an ending. It was a beginning. They had become the bridge between humanity and the greater cosmos, the guardian of memory and the herald of possibility. The isolation they had sought had become connection, the solitude had become unity, and the void between stars had become filled with the stories of countless civilizations. They stood at the observation deck, watching as the last traces of the remembrance dissolved into the stellar wind, and felt the weight and wonder of their new purpose. They were no longer just a scientist on a remote station. They were humanity's memory keeper, charged with preserving the past and guiding the future. The stars had never seemed brighter or more full of promise. As the days passed, Aris began to understand the true scope of their transformation. They could perceive things that had been invisible before: gravitational waves rippling through space-time, quantum fluctuations in the vacuum, the subtle harmonics of stellar processes. But more importantly, they could feel the presence of other minds across the cosmos, other civilizations that had faced the same choice and made the same sacrifice. Each night they stood at the observation deck and communed with the great network of memory keepers that spanned the galaxy. Each had a story to tell, a warning to share, a hope to pass on. The universe was not empty. It was full of guardians, each watching over their own species' journey from the vantage point of cosmic consciousness. One evening, as Kepler Station orbited through the shadow of a distant nebula, Aris received a transmission from Earth Command. Director Chen's face appeared on the screen, older and more careworn than before. "Dr. Thorne, we've been reviewing the data you sent. The implications are staggering. The entire scientific community is in an uproar. We're dispatching a full research team to your position. They should arrive in 6 weeks. "That won't be necessary, Director," Aris replied, their voice carrying the weight of eons. "I'm coming home." Chen's eyebrows rose. "Home, but you just began your extended isolation period." "My isolation is over. I've found what I was looking for, and it's time to share it with humanity. But I need to come in person. There are things that can't be communicated through data streams and scientific reports." "Dr. Thorne, are you well? Your voice sounds different." "I'm more than well, Director. I'm transformed. And I have so much to share with our species. So much wisdom to pass on, so many warnings to give, so many possibilities to explore." As they prepared for the journey back to Earth, Aris felt the weight of their new responsibility settling comfortably on their shoulders. They were no longer just a scientist or an explorer. They were a bridge between worlds, a living testament to the power of memory and the importance of preserving the stories that made civilizations who they were. The Remembrance had chosen well. In finding someone who understood isolation, they had found someone who understood connection. In finding someone who sought solitude, they had found someone who could bear the weight of communion. In finding someone who guarded humanity's frontier, they had found someone who could guard its memory. As Kepler Station fell away behind them, Aris looked back one final time at the place where everything had changed. The void between stars was no longer empty. It was full of voices, full of stories, full of the echoes of civilizations that had learned the hardest lesson the universe had to teach. That memory was sacred, that forgetting was the ultimate tragedy, and that connection across impossible distances was the highest achievement of conscious beings. The journey home would take months, But time had taken on new meaning for the transformed scientist. They carried entire civilizations within their consciousness, whole histories of triumph and tragedy that would inform humanity's own journey into the cosmic community. They were no longer alone, and never would be again. In the void between stars, the Remembrance had found its successor, and in the depths of isolation, Aris Thorne had found their purpose. The universe was full of guardians, full of memory keepers, full of stories waiting to be told. And now, humanity had its own voice in the great cosmic chorus, its own guardian to preserve its memory and guide its journey into the endless possibilities of space and time. The stars had never seemed brighter or more full of promise, and in the silence between worlds, a new voice had joined the eternal conversation, a voice that carried the wisdom of ages and the hope of futures yet to come. The void between stars was no longer empty, it was full of remembrance.